Welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storme, here to help you unlock the mind, business, and spirit of your private practice success. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to grow, this is the place for you if you really want to create a thriving private practice. Before we dive in, I want to share something that can really make a difference in your business. Imagine having an expert in your pocket, someone available on demand whenever you need guidance. Well, that's exactly what my new program, Practice Momentum, offers. With over 30 years of experience at your fingertips, you can now get the support you need whenever you need it. Curious? Head over to brooklynstorme.com to learn more. And now let's get into today. Welcome. Okay, if you have just heard the previous episode, I don't know what number it is. I'm so sorry. I think we're up to like number 458 or something. But anyway, the previous episode, I think, will be a great prerequisite. I don't know why I had trouble saying that. Prerequisite for this episode. In this episode, I'm going to give you a framework that I created that will help you to understand how to write content that will build your audience and over time increase inquiries and bookings for your private practice. And the reason that you want to do this is because when you know how to write a, good post, or you know how to write a post the right way, you understand the steps and the framework and the purpose and everything behind it. What will happen is you'll be able to start publishing content now, and it will have a, lifetime, right? If you go and post it on your business page or your Instagram, stuff like that, it's going to stay there forever, which means that as you, if you go and write this thing today, it's the first piece of content, but then down the track, you might have 50 of these, and people will find maybe piece number 36 that you wrote, and they're really going to connect with it. And then they're going to go back and read, piece number 21 and piece number 11. So it starts from today. Be clear on your expectations though. It can take time to get clients from your socials. However, this framework that I'm going to share with you can absolutely speed up the process, which is why I'm going to give it to you now. Okay. So yeah, I would just think of it like an acronym I would use is something like SERVE. It would just be, I'm going to explain them. Okay. The first one is story, right? Story is so important. And here's why. It is much easier for you to connect with someone when you're hearing their story, right? Like, for example, I've been sharing with you about what it's been like with caring for an aging parent, right? I can share with you, like I did yesterday, about Buddy and barking while I'm on my podcast I'm trying to record. Like, I've got stories. I share with you stories about what's happening with other people that I'm working with. But I also share stories about my gym journey and how I go to Daylesford and what I'm doing in Daylesford, right? The reason that I share those stories is because in my head, right, I'm thinking that you're already in my space. We're already connected. So I'm talking to you as if you're already not a friend, but do you know what I mean? Like a friend, like we're already there. So I'm talking to you from that space. And I love to share stories because I want you to know what's going on in my world, because it's really important to me that you understand what a private practice really looks like, because there are other private practice coaches out there that don't share all of this. They will share stuff about strategy and stuff like that, but they're not going to say what it really looks like behind the scenes. Like, they're not sharing with you how they're making their roadmap for 100K in 90 days, right? They're not doing that and sharing the mistakes that they made along the way and things like that. But I will share that. I want that transparency because I care about you and I see you as connected to me already. And so because of that, I'm going to be transparent. Stories get remembered, whereas if I just put up a random post about the DCS or about, practice momentum, you're probably not going to remember that. You might remember the name practice momentum because you hear me say it all the time, but you might not remember what I said about it in that particular post if I didn't include a story. So stories help people get to know you, but they also help your content to be remembered. And that's really important because when your content gets remembered, people can start to feel a connection with you. They can start to form their own impression of you, beliefs, see whether or not, your values align with theirs. And all this stuff kind of happens that just doesn't happen on a static post where we're not sharing a story. But there are ways to do it, right? So one of the things I rarely do is start a story, whether it's a post or an email or something like that, with something that's very obviously going to be salesy. So I wouldn't start with a couple of years ago it was all the trend to say, do you have trouble sleeping late at night? Do you have trouble concentrating? Do you have this problem? Do you have that problem? And just asking like this whole bunch of questions at the start. I still see it on therapy websites, drives me bananas. But I think the problem with that is straight away we know it's a sales pitch. And also I just think like energetically, it's probably just really depressing to ask people if they've got all these problems. That's how you're starting your post. I wouldn't do it. If I was going to start my post with a question, it would be something relevant to what I'm going to talk about. Like, has this ever happened to you? That would be, and I do use that because I'm always saying to people in my posts, oh my gosh, has this ever happened to you? Do you find this too? Like, I just want to connect with them like that. Whereas I think if I approached a post from a place of, do you ever feel like this? I think straight away people are going to go, oh, here we go, pitch post, and they're going to get out. So you can begin the story or begin your post with a question, but think about how you want to ask it. Or something else is just to start with, again, just something super relatable. Like you might just say, the moment when you realized you sent an email out to your clients and the link inside it was wrong, right? So I know a lot of my clients, like you guys, will probably be able to relate to that. Because you probably all send clients to your emails and probably you've sent them the wrong Zoom link or the wrong diary link or something. There's been a broken link, right? We've all done it. So I know if I start with a line like that, straight away people are going to continue to read because they can relate, right? So think about story or scenario. I would begin there. And then what I would do is I would move into something like demonstrating that you get it, okay? I would think about empathy, think about validation, think about acknowledging, right? And just basically being human and showing that you get it without saying, I get it. So you might say something along the lines of, so the moment you realize that you just sent out this huge email to all these important people and the link's wrong, you might go on to explain a little bit about that and what happened for you. And then you might go on to say, I know that I'm not the only one that this happens to. And in fact, I'm living proof that if it's happened to you, you're also not the only one that it's happened to, and that good people with good intentions are human at the end of the day and we all make mistakes. So I'm going to empathize like that. Do you see? Rather than saying something like, you're not alone in feeling this way. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be more relatable. The next part of the framework, if you like, would be to consider how you might reframe things for them, or if your post isn't around mindset and challenges and things like that, maybe it's around something else, you might do reflection, okay? So it might just be you offering a different perspective, a different insight, but again, doing it in a way that is super relatable. So I think content that works really well for this is content that is myth busting. It's like challenging the status quo. And if you've been in my world for a little while, you know how I feel about the national standards. And you can go and see examples of how I've done reframes and reflects and stories and empathizing and all of the things over on my blog, right? You can go and have a look to your heart's content there. It's a brand new blog, all right? I think it's got like 8 articles or something, but you will see the process of how I do that. So it's really important that you do that. So maybe, for example, if your client is struggling with anxiety and they're frustrated because they've tried box breathing, it didn't work. They tried mindful coloring, it didn't work. They tried all of these different things. Then your reframe or your shift or your new perspective might be something along the lines of, hey, what if it's not something that's bad that should be gotten rid of? What if the anxiety is actually a tool that your body is using to let you know that you need a checkup with something, or possibly a check-in with something? And if you look at the anxiety from that space, what then becomes available to you? Well, it tells us that the anxiety is giving you a message about something that's off, something that's not right, something that's out of alignment with your values, your beliefs, your purpose, with who you are. And that's a good thing, because you can then use that information to get yourself back on track. Do you see what I mean? Like, that would be an example of a reframe or reflect. The other thing that will help you build your audience, build trust, build rapport, and lead to, as I said, remember the dating scenario that I gave? It was so bad a couple of episodes ago. But yeah, we're not going to sleep with someone on the first date. We need to and maybe text them for a little while first. Then we're going to go and meet them in a public place for coffee second, and then it might be lunch or dinner or something like that, right? So we don't just want to dive into stuff. We've got to give a little bit of we've got to show that we know our stuff. Okay, so this here is really about, I called it value, but it's really probably more about showing that you're an authority, showing that you've got credibility. So you could do things like share a strategy, but I would say maybe don't. And the reason for that is because you're probably gonna get in your head about it, overthink it. You probably know a really good strategy, but you might say to yourself, oh, but I don't want to give it away free. It's better if, this is really good and I want to be paid for it. So I'll just give them like a very vanilla, watered down version over here. That might happen for you. I know it's certainly happened for me. I'm going through that at the moment with something. I'm like, oh, this is so good. And I know that they could really do it, but it's that good. I think I just want to keep it for the practice momentum, girls, And the other thing that might get in the way of you being able to do that is, you're just going to hide. You're going to play safe. You're going to play small. You're going to get imposter syndrome. Do you know what I mean? And all of that is just going to water things down. And you're just going to do it really, really badly. And we don't want that, because we're trying now to give your reader the experience of them having a breakthrough, them having a realization, them having an aha, which hopefully they might have had when you shared your reframe. Like I just gave you that example of like reframing anxiety, instead of like it's something that we need to get rid of and it's something we need to control and manage. No, what if it's something we listen to and acknowledge and learn from? But anyway, with value, you can do a strategy. I would say don't. I would think about, what would your client find really helpful to hear right now? More than just validation, right? What would they actually find really, really helpful and useful? Because we want them to come back. If you just put something vanilla, what's going to happen is you've just lost all your credibility, and they're going to go and find the person who's actually sharing valuable stuff. They're going to subscribe to that person's newsletter because they don't want to miss out. They're going to make sure that they keep visiting that person's I don't know, Instagram feed or something, because they know that the content is that good. So like, I really like to follow people on Instagram who have great content, and that for me is where I'm learning something. And what I really like is, the feeling that I get from learning that new thing. But think about what it is with, and so they're not even teaching me vanilla stuff, right? They're teaching me actual stuff. They're lifting the veil. They're not hiding. They're like teaching me stuff. So think about what your clients would really find so useful that they would follow you so that they didn't miss a post. They'll find it so useful, they're going to share it with their friends. They're going to find it so useful, they're going to share it with their GP. So useful, they're going to talk to their mum about it. So useful that they're going to come back regularly for more. Okay? If it doesn't have that, don't bother. The next thing there is, the call to action, right? The call to action. So this is where we're really just like giving them the invitation. We're extending an invitation to people who are considering. They're problem aware. They know that they've got the anxiety or whatever it is. They're not ready yet. It's not bad enough yet. They think in their head that it's not bad enough yet for them to go and get help. So they're not the 2 out of 100 that are looking to book. They're the 98 that are aware that there's something going on, and they're sounding you out, as well as other therapists who work with the same problem that they've got, right? So that they're following a few of you, they're checking a few of you out, seeing who they resonate with. So for them, I would say something that's softer is going to work better than book now or, sessions now available. Like, that's not going to work for them. Go with something like, come back tomorrow and I'll show you something else, right? Something softer, something gentle. I wouldn't really bother with affirmations and, Instagram quotes and things like that. I would just make sure that everything is really relatable. Something that can really help you to get out of your head is to journal on this and give yourself a prompt like, what does my client really need to hear today? What does my client really need to hear right now? And just brain dump, just like stream of consciousness, right? All of the things. And then find one that is resonating with you today. And then ask yourself, has it happened to me? Do I have a relatable story? If it hasn't happened to you, has it happened to someone you've worked with or someone around you, in your orbit, in your space, a friend, a family member, things like that. And share a story. Of course, de-identify it and things like that if you're thinking about a real situation. But build a story around it, like share the story. Because, again, it just makes sure that your post is remembered, that you are remembered, and that connection begins. Now, I wouldn't do all of my posts like this. I would stick to one post a week like this, all right? And I wouldn't make it short. I would make it 4 or 5 paragraphs. I would make it something that was readable, because the more time somebody spends reading, the more brownie points you're getting from your social media. So don't just do 1 or 2 sentences of this. Try and follow the process that I've shared with you today. I'll just go over it again really quickly. So you're going to start by thinking about a story or a scenario relevant to your client that you've experienced, or that a client of yours has experienced, or that you hear, or that you're seeing a lot online, things like that. Find the thing, have the story that goes with it. With that story, then move into demonstrating, like acknowledging your client, validating your client's experience as it relates to this story. Then you're going to either do a reflection on it, or maybe a reframe, depending on the type of content that you're sharing. Then you're going to share something that they think is useful Not that you think they need to know, but that they think is useful. Remember the curse of the genius, right? The curse of the genius is because you're doing this all of the time, it's just like normal to you and you don't even think about breaking it down. But this is brand new to your client. They don't know the basic building blocks. You've done the basic building blocks, then the intermediate, then the advanced, and then the like super duper advanced, and you're now off in super duper advanced land, and you're talking to your clients from the space of super duper advanced land. Bring it back down to the basic foundations. Give them rationales. Use the word because. Use the words so that, right? Because when you do, their brain then says, oh, okay, I see now. That's helpful. Do that. And then have a softer call to action. Don't use book now. Don't say message me, right? If they're hesitating and they're nervous and they don't know you yet, saying DM me, saying send me a message, saying book now, saying visit my website, all those things, they are more advanced steps than where your client is ready. Your client just wants to get to know you for now. So use a call to action that supports them in getting to know you. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that this is really helpful. If you use this approach, you can start to see improvements in inquiries and possibly even bookings over the next little while. It's probably going to take you a few months, 2 or 3 months before you start seeing, and you should be tracking, obviously. You should be tracking. So every time you get an inquiry, asking people, how did you find me? Because we want to know if your content is working. And then what I would do is I would take this piece of content and I would turn it into a reel, turn it into a carousel, turn it into an email, turn it into, a blog post, to take that same piece of content and just adapt it for different platforms. Save yourself a lot of time. Just get it out there. And when you do stuff like that too, it helps with consistency. And that consistency is very important because it builds trust, and trust is required in order for someone to work with you. I don't know any women in momentum, for example, that hadn't been following me for months or years before they joined the program. They need time. So, and I'm dealing with business, right, which is super serious, but you're dealing with mental health, which is also super serious. Don't expect to put a post up today and start getting inquiries like in 2 or 3 weeks' time. It's going to take time. This is a medium to long-term game and it works. You just have to know what you're doing and how to do it, and you do know now. Okay, so if you go and write something amazing, share it with me, and I would love to go over and spend some time reading it to kickstart the algorithm for you, and of course give it hearts and likes and comments and all that other good stuff too, so that other people can start to see it's getting some traction. I hope that this was super helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And of course, yes, if you want to join Momentum, we start again, or the next intake rather, is the 15th of July. I'm accepting applications now on the wait list. You can find out more on my website for that. And I'll also pop the link in the show notes for you. Okay, hope that this was super helpful. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorm.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.